Welcome to another episode of Manny Talks Shooting, the show where I talk to individuals all across the shooting industry, talk about competition, self-defense, and concealed carry. If you enjoy this content, check out our YouTube channel, Manny Things. Without further ado, let me introduce you to my guest. We have here Mr. Justin Anderson of Excel Training Solutions. Justin, how are you doing today, sir?
Doing good, man. Thanks for having me on.
I appreciate you coming on. It's been a long one in the making for schedules to finally mesh up, but we made it happen. So
Yeah, yes, we did.
But Justin, I know you a little bit. We talk about every once in a while, but I don't think my guests, my listeners really don't know who you are. So who are you and how did you get into shooting, sir?
Well, I'm a 22-year-old kid from Wisconsin that shoots guns. That's about it. No, so I started shooting. I started shooting probably like 7 years ago. I got my first gun when I was like 14. So I guess, okay, that's 8 years ago. Can't do math. Yeah, so I got my first gun when I was 14. Just kind of shot around, got a pistol when I was 15, built an AR when I was 16. So got a little bit of a kind of firearm experience that way, just kind of playing around, kind of learning things on my own. And then when I was like 18 years old, was when I was like, okay, so I've been shooting for like 4 years and I suck. I can't hit anything. So I wanted to really learn to get better. And so I kind of started dabbling in the whole training world, but I wasn't super deep into it quite yet. But then I got married when I was 19, and that was when it kind of hit me that it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to conceal carry to protect my wife, my skills need to be up to par. So started doing that when I was 19. I really dove head first into it, really got into it, shot a lot. And that was 2018, I believe. And then I had several people around our community that kind of started seeing me, noticing me shooting a lot, and got a lot of people reaching out saying, hey, could you take me out and show me a few things? And I was like, sure, that'd be awesome. And then started doing that. And I started realizing very quickly how much I enjoyed teaching people. And so started doing that, started getting a lot of people asking about it. And it just started taking away a lot of time. So just started charging a little bit of money to help pay for, range items, targets, ammo, my time, to supplement that. And there's enough demand just even locally to where I had to like get a website, right? I had to make this official and get scheduling and everything like that. So in January of 2021, I started my own training company, Excel Training Solutions. And things have been crazy with personal life, work, and all that. So it's been a little bit of a slow start, but it's great. I love it. A lot of opportunities that I've been able to meet a lot of really cool people in the industry. And so, yeah.
That's fascinating. And yeah, our industry and community is quite interesting and nice. Everyone's kind of willing to help you out. I've figured that out. Doesn't matter if you're kind of like direct competition, they still want everyone to be better. Like I deal with a lot of people on the podcasting end of the firearms podcast stuff. And no one's like, at least to me, they're not disheartening. Everyone wants everyone to be encouraged and grow everyone up, which is nice. And I can see that in the training community as well.
Yep. Yeah, most of the time. You have your bad eggs everywhere, right? But yeah, the majority of the people just want you to succeed.
Mm-hmm. Now, you said you started shooting at 14. What was that first gun you kind of really started shooting with?
Yeah, so my first gun was a Savage Axis bolt action 223. I bought a Nikon scope, so I bought it for like $200, right? I bought it at Walmart. My family and I were camping in northern Wisconsin, and I had some airsoft guns previously that I started playing with and kind of just learning about them. I was very fascinated by them, and so went to my dad and I was like, Dad, I've been making money working since I was like 10 years old, so I had money for a gun, and so I was like, Dad, I want to buy a real gun. And he's like, all right, well, you're working, you got the money for it. Let's do it. So we went camping up north, and we went to Walmart for something, and I saw it. I was like, Dad, that's the gun I want. It's a Savage. It's, Savage Axis bolt action 223. That's, it's like $200. And so we bought it and got back home. I bought a Nikon scope for it. The scope was $250. So I already knew, I already knew the importance of optics at that point. So I like to brag on that a little bit. yeah, so I shot that, and I started reloading a little bit, kind of playing with that, because I would only ever shoot like 200 to 600 yards. Like that was all I ever did, was just like long range. But it was kind of country boy long range, you know. It wasn't, I didn't know anything. I started learning a little bit about like MOA and stuff like that, but I just knew like, hey, in order to hit here, I just got to put the BDC hold here, right? I didn't really understand any long range marksmanship fundamentals or anything like that. So yeah, I just kind of played around with that for a while.
Excellent. And you said you built your first AR?
Well, yeah. So I guess I shouldn't say I built it. I assembled it. I assembled
Right.
the lower, which isn't really building it. So it's actually
Mhm.
kind of, but yeah, I bought the upper. It was a BCM. It was a BCM. It was a 16-inch with the quad rail, the QRF quad rail, the 12-inch. Yeah, I bought, I think it was a PSA lower, and I assembled it, threw a Geisley trigger in there and everything. So I already kind of knew some stuff from watching a ton of YouTube videos at that point. So I kind of knew like what I wanted. And I kind of just pieced it together, and yeah.
Now, what drew you to the quad rail? Was it that you couldn't find like a key mod or an M-lock, or was it?
I honestly, dude, I didn't even really understand the differences between them. I was kind of like, which is funny because I knew what a Geisley trigger was. I knew I wanted a trigger, but I didn't even care about the rail. Because at that point, like I wanted to get a weapon light, but I wasn't doing lasers or anything like that. Where rails really start to like matter a lot. So
Mhm.
I just like, oh, this one's in stock, I'm gonna buy this one, and it looks cool. You know, the quad rail looks cool. So I was like, oh, sweet.
Right. And that's what you typically see from like most movies and whatnot. They still have the quad rails on it with the broom handle, and
Yep. Yep.
that is pretty cool, sir. That is definitely
It was yeah. I painted it, and if you go on my Instagram profile, if you scroll like all the way down
mhm.
to like my first post, you can see it. I painted it and everything, and I sold it, and I actually kind of regret selling it, to be totally honest, but you know how it goes.
Gotta sell stuff to make money, right? Sometimes.
Yep, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some guns that you just regret selling later down the road. It's like, damn, I wish I still
Yeah,
had that.
I know. I only got like this amount of money for it. It wasn't even worth it at that point.
Mhm.
You know? But
Now, you said you started your training company in early 2021. Have you taken any formal instruction from anyone prior to starting your own company?
I have, yeah. So I've taken, yeah. I won't say specifically who it is, only because, yeah, there's some. I sometimes talk with some people about different things that I've seen when it comes to teaching, and some of the things I'm not as much of a fan of that I personally have experienced. So I'll leave the names out of it, but yeah, it's kind of, I've trained with national competitive champions and somewhat former special operations dudes. So a little bit of a mix, but
Now, would you say that that training that you took, without giving any names away, was it worth it? Did you have any big takeaways from those classes at all, or?
yeah, there were two that I took a lot away from, the competitive shooting class and the very first class. So my very first class was pistol 1 and 2. Nothing super crazy or special, but it was my very first class, and I was I was like the top I was like the top 2 or 3 shooter in the class. Like I had dry firing and did quite a bit, but I didn't know anything, right? Like I was just
Mhm.
like, okay, I know, I've heard this is what I have to do to, prep the trigger, but I didn't understand. Like it's perspective, right? It's context. I didn't understand any of that. I just kind of knew this is what I have to do, and I did it. And so it worked well for me. But taking that first class, pistol 1 and 2, was very helpful to start getting some context and perspective on not only just shooting but also teaching, because at that point I had several people starting to reach out and wanting me to teach them, and I was like, all right, well, this is what I do, so try this and do that. And it was very you know unprofessional, unfoundational, So even just seeing how that instructors went about teaching, 15 students on the line, and how they visualized concepts was very interesting to me. So that one was very valuable to me. And then the competitive shooting class that I took, that took my shooting to the next level for sure. Gave me homework for like a solid probably year.
Mhm.
So yeah.
And that's definitely kind of how I feel about most classes. They give you enough homework to last you until the next year,
Yep.
and you really should just be soaking it all in and not try. But because then you see those guys who are out there taking classes once a quarter, every other month, and they're like, "How are you practicing on anything, or are you just going to all these classes and not
Right.
really letting it stew and process and make it work for you," kind of things?
Yeah. And it kind of depends on what your goal is, right? What's the
Hmm.
goal? Um, I remember the first class I took, there was a dude there that I was talking to before the shooters meeting, and this was like his 8th class. So I'm sitting there like super intimidated, right? I'm like, let's see, how old was I? 19 years old, right? It was my very first class. I was like, I'm just a kid from Wisconsin. I was literally running concealed appendix, and everyone's showing up with their battle belts, and there was a few SWAT cops in the class. And it was just like, man, I'm like super intimidated and nervous right now. And so I talked to this guy next to me. He was like the most normal looking dude in the class. And I was like, so, is this your first class? He's like, oh no, this is my 8th. I was like, oh, okay then. But when it came time to shoot, I don't know how to say this without sounding super stuck up, but I outshot most of them. And so I was like, okay, like what am I missing here? Like all these guys have taken all these classes and I'm out shooting them. I don't understand that. And what I came to realize very quickly is that classes are not solely meant to make you better. It's to give you homework, right? If you get to a certain level in your shooting, right, where you're going to leave not that much of a better shooter. Like this is the way it is, right? But you're going to leave with a different mindset and a plan, right? So I started realizing that, and that was when but at the same time, ever since kind of becoming an instructor, quote unquote, I think it's really interesting. If I had more time and money to go take a bunch of classes from different instructors, I actually would, just to get context and perspective on different teaching styles and different ways to explain things, different concept visualizations, because that kind of stuff intrigues me, right, as an instructor. And so when I see guys taking classes every quarter, taking multiple classes a year, or maybe multiple Pistol 1 classes a year, my first question to them is, what's your goal, right? What's your plan? What's the goal in your shooting and taking these classes? And if it's, well, I want to get better, and this instructor teaches that, it's like, well, sorry to tell you, man, but you don't need to take 5 classes a year to get better, right? You like 90%, arguably maybe even 95%, I don't know, of your progress is going to be in your personal training. So yeah, so it kind of depends on what your goal is, man. But I would typically agree that you don't take 1 class a year, or whatever class it is, different classes for different skills, right? If you're taking a tactics class, and then a performance shooting class, and then a rifle class, and then a low light class, like those are all right, different skills, different things. But yeah, if you're taking multiple pistol classes a year, you're probably, if your goal is to get better, you're probably not taking advantage of the gains you would get from personal training, investing in that.
And just think about all the money it costs to go take a 2-day, $500 class. You mean you've got the cost of ammo, cost of the class, cost of getting there, lodging. Like I want to say on that safe estimate, it's probably about $2,000.
Yeah. Yep.
At least to go take a 2-day class, especially if it's not local to you.
Yep, I know. And for me, like being in Wisconsin, nothing's in Wisconsin, right? Well, not. It used to not be Wisconsin. There's a lot more training now at the new Vortex facility in Madison. But Yeah, for the most part, there's not a whole lot happening in Wisconsin. Joe Farewell has come up here a few times, but other than that, not much. And so I've traveled literally across the country just to take classes because it's just what you have to do. So next thing you know, you're traveling to South Carolina or whatever, and you're $2,000 deep. And that's, I mean, it's kind of unfortunate, but it's just the way it is, you know?
Right. Yeah. And like you might get lucky, especially if you've got a range. That's really the hard part, is finding a range that'll allow you to bring in an outside instructor and what their bullshit rules are.
Yep.
Like, I know luckily I've had a Fred bring Tim Herron up twice, 2 years in a row. Luckily it's a private range. So we, it's pretty not lackadaisical the rules. The policies to bring someone in are not as difficult as a lot of other places. So we're very lucky on that resort. But
yeah. And I've hosted a few guys. Actually, I just recently hosted Mark Smith, JVS Training Group, which was an amazing class. Shout out to him.
Didn't he just make GM?
He just made GM, yeah. And it was funny because when he was here, we were talking about it. Some of the things he's been focusing on, and he was just telling me how he was going to get back into it and really pound it this fall, make GM. And here he make a GM already. Oh, you dog. But yeah, I just hosted him, and I've hosted a few guys at my range, which has been awesome because I've been able to bring instructors out to my range and have classes that I would have wanted to take, that I would have traveled to take. I would have traveled across the country to take. And so my friends and family and community around here, I'm just like, guys, I'm bringing these guys to my home range in your backyard. You need to get on this. But I have realized that it's just tough. People do not prioritize training the same way we do, right? And it's not necessarily a fault against them, because I get it. It's money. It's a lot of money. Ammo is tight. Ammo is expensive, so I get that. But it's tough. If you're not bringing like a super well-known person to your range, it can be hard to fill a class.
Mm-hmm. And even if you have a high level, like a high name instructor, they've had to cancel classes 2020 and 2021 just because they might have filled them up and had a waiting list last year. Now this year it's like, I don't want to spend, I have ammo, but I'm not going to be able to replenish it. So I don't want to. And that's the unfortunate part, really.
Yep. I know, dude. Like, seriously, I haven't, I have a backup stash of ammo, right? I won't say how much that is, but like, dude, my training ammo stash is always gone. Mm-hmm. I'm like, literally, it's always gone. Like, I never have like, I've talked to buddies that they're like, yeah, I've got like 5,000 rounds of training ammo stashed away. I'm just like, what? What? Why? Like, you should be shooting that. And they're like, well, then I have to buy more. I'm like, yeah, that's it's a cycle of life, man. That's how it works.
I do believe in the stash of ammo that doesn't get touched. Well, I mean, it'll get rotated. You buy some ammo, you swap it out, you move it around. Just to always have that zero. Like, I have zero if I have this much on hand.
Right. Yeah. And the backup stash, like, that doesn't get touched, right? That's locked away, and that doesn't. But it's just the training ammo stash. It's always at like 100 rounds. It's like, I have 100 rounds left. So you got to break it up and make it count,
Mm-hmm. Well, and honestly, even 100-round session, you can get so much done with just 100 rounds.
Yeah.
Because I feel 50, you can get things done, but be able to explore it a little bit more. I feel it takes a little bit more rounds than 50.
Yeah. Kind of, I mean, kind of depends on what you're working on, right? Mm-hmm. You and I, like, I think I can safely assume that both you and I, USPSA is it's a big thing, right? We like training a lot of different concepts that we're working on, fundamentals that we're working on in USPSA with movement, stuff like that. That may involve shooting mini stages, right? Well, a mini stage, 2 shots per target, could be literally anywhere from 6 to 12 rounds, right? Mm-hmm. Well, you run the stage once, run it backwards, switch up the targets, do whatever. Next thing you know, you're 40 rounds deep. And you've only run the stage like 3 or 4 times, right? You only get 3 or 4 reps, and that starts up ammo really quick. So it kind of depends on what you're working on, but it's just, it's kind of the way it is.
Mm-hmm. Well, and honestly, like this last session I did some movement stuff, but I only did 1 round per target just to get more reps in.
Yep. For sure. Yeah, that's a majority of what I do is that, because you can literally get double the reps of
Mhm.
movement versus 2 rounds per target, and it
Mhm.
doesn't much. The visualization, shot calling is all the same. Like recoil control, like yeah, grip is really important when it comes to that, even though you're only shooting 2 rounds, but you can kind of piece it together even only shooting 1 round.
Mhm. Absolutely. Now, Justin, you did say you're a USPSA competitor. Do you care to share your classification at this current time?
Yeah, I'm a carry optics division, A class. I'm like a high A class. I think I'm at like 80% or 81% or something like that.
Oh,
So
yeah, you're close to master.
yeah, I'm trying to. It's tough, man, with the work schedule. The previous work schedule, it's I was only able to shoot like one match a month or like one match every other month. So it was really tough. And like that's why like I've gone to, the only reason I even got that was because of a classifier match that I just recently shot
Mhm.
locally. And if I hadn't shot that, dude, I wouldn't be classified probably for another like 2 or 3 months.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
really no ranges really close to you from what talking with another mutual friend of ours. It's like you got to drive at least an hour and a half, no matter which way you're going to a range.
Yeah, about an hour 15. Yeah. There's one a little closer. It's like 50 minutes, but not much. So that's kind of unfortunate as well. But that doesn't matter to me as much. I'm willing to do that. But it's just the scheduling. It just, yeah, it's, you know how it
Mhm.
goes, man.
Oh
Tough.
yeah, oh I know. But shit, like some locals I drive to are 2.5, 3 hours just because I wanted to go shoot with those buddies.
Yep.
But they wouldn't
Yep.
drive to me, so I was like, all right, we'll figure this relationship out later. But
I see how it is.
right, and they had good matches too, so that wasn't always a bad thing. So what gun are you? Well, because we're at the point in the show where people care about gear, so let's get the gear out of the way, like divisional gear, and then we'll maybe talk a little bit about your EDC as well.
Well, people are going to be disappointed because I shoot a Glock 17.
I'm not disappointed in that because that's what I
Yeah, I
shoot.
know you're not, Alex. No, you're not. But yeah, yeah, my first pistol that I shot or that I bought, right, was a SIG P320. And I was like 15 years old, right, and it was brand new, and it was like one of the first guns to have ambidextrous controls, which is why I bought it. Which is actually funny because for the first 2 years of shooting, I didn't even use them, so it's kind of funny. But yeah, and then I played with CZs a little bit. Ended up selling all of them. They just weren't my jam. I had some issues with them, and yeah, got a Glock 17 like 2 years ago or something like that. Haven't looked back. I don't think that Glocks are the best handguns, because honestly, like the best handgun out there is the one that you can shoot the best. So like I don't really care that much, honestly. There are so many different options now. People argue about Boraxis or this or that. Like seriously, bro, I don't like, just pick one and run it, like. But yeah, I've put a lot through my Glock 17, so I've got enough reps in it to kind of like get my preference to that. So
Hmm. Yeah, and it's like between like the 320, Glock, a CZ, they're all pretty much the same. They're about the same accuracy. It's all dependent on your personal preference at that point.
yeah, I know some people argue about accuracy too, and it's like, dude, there's such a small handful of people that can shoot well enough to where accuracy is even an issue with a handgun, right?
Hmm.
Got to be like, oh, I can't score more than a 90 or like a 95 on a B8 at 25. It's like, dude, there are so many shooters out there that can't even do that. They
Hmm.
fit like their ability is not even there to be able to do that. So I feel like that's kind of, it's just another thing for people on the internet to argue about.
Hmm. Well, yeah, and
uh,
it's honestly a moot point. I mean, it doesn't really, pistol accuracy doesn't matter. It's more about you messing up your grip or your trigger press at that point than how accurate the gun actually is.
right. Like
Because you're
you
gonna
bench, you
you bench.
show me it is, because I can guarantee it's a lot more accurate than you are.
Exactly. Now, are you running the Hollow Sun 509 still, or did you switch optics?
Nope, I'm running a 509. I'm trying to get my hands on a SRO. 5 MOA SRO, and yeah, I don't know why, but I can't seem to get my hands on one I'm getting one from a buddy, but yeah, I'm gonna be switching to an SRO here pretty soon, just because I want to play with the taller window. I don't think it's really gonna matter that much, honestly. The 509 is great. It's a big enough window to do everything you do. The dot doesn't leave the optic window when I shoot, so it's honestly not that, but I just want to play with it, get some time on it.
And I will say, if they're in stock, Big Tech's Ordnance has pretty good discounts as well if you find a discount code.
Yep, for sure.
That's where I bought, not my SRO, but my RMR. I got a hell of a deal because, 15% off on your whole order is a lot when you buy an optic.
Yep. Yeah.
But Justin, what kind of drives you to be better at shooting besides like that original trying to be proficient after you got married?
Yeah. Honestly, that's the biggest thing for me personally is being the protector of my family, right? That's what initially drives me to get into training, and that's what continually drives me to be better, because you're never good enough, right? When you're talking about life, human life, there's never good enough. And if you think there is a good enough, well, then I would ask you, is there good enough for your family, right? You may think there's good enough for someone else's family, but for your family, is there a good enough? And there's not. If you are a halfway decent human being, you will agree with that. So that's what drives me, because you look at where this world is at, where this country's at, where everything's going. It's crazy, And so, taking the responsibility and the leadership as a husband and as a man it's pretty important to me. So that's what drives me, first and foremost. After that, I'm a teacher, right? So I have way more responsibility on me than other people, right? People that just shoot, that just for the fun of it, right? As a hobby or whatever. If I'm teaching, if I'm instructing, there's a way higher responsibility that I have on my shoulders than other people. And I'm fine with that, right? And so that also drives me to be better, because I like mediocrity is not something I strive for in really any area in my life. So it's funny. I don't really think about being the best, that I want to be the best, because I don't really care. I just want to help as many people as I can. So if that means being the best, okay, then great. But if it doesn't, I don't really care about being the best. I just want to help as many people as I can. So, and then from there, it's kind of more of just a personal thing, right? I'm a very goal-oriented person. So, I have a lot of personal goals for myself, some of which I'm sure we'll share in this podcast. Other ones I kind of keep to myself. But I have a lot of personal goals when it comes to shooting, and I don't allow myself not to reach those goals. So it's kind of, in my mind, it's kind of like a no, it's not up for discussion. It's like, it's not a if, it's when, right? That's just kind of how I approach a lot of things in life, especially with shooting. So, and it's fun being competitive. It's fun, competing with really, really high level shooters. It's a very satisfying feeling, right? And so it's like, for me, it's like, well, I don't want to compete. I want to beat them. Like I'm a dude, right? I'm competitive. I want to beat GMs. I want to beat M's at matches, right? I want to get high overall scores, and classification is cool. Like, I'd love to make GM. But like, honestly, that's not as important to me as like beating people at a match, right? Consistent performance on demand, consistent on-demand performance, right? So I would say those 3 things or 4 things, whatever those were, in order. That's kind of where I'm at.
Absolutely. And yeah, honestly, if I can rebound on that, and it's eventually the classifications will get there, but when the match performance is already there, if you're competing with M's and GMs, you're already on that level. You just need to shoot a stupid standard stage to eventually get enough of them and prove that you actually can shoot at that match level.
Yeah, I honestly don't even really care what class you are. I want to see your last 5 match overall scores. I want where you stacked up with all the other shooters. That's what I care about, because dude, I've met I haven't been in the sport like a crazy long time, and I haven't even shot that many matches, but I have already met just a few paper GMs that I have beat, and not beat like at one time, but like beat multiple times at local matches, that it's like, okay, wait a minute. I'm not performing as a GM shooter. I'm performing as an A-class shooter, a consistent A-class shooter. That's my performance level. But you're a GM and you're performing as like a high B class. Like that doesn't make sense. And so that it just doesn't impress me anymore. I hate to say it. It does. I mean, like it, you don't make GM being a slouch, right? So I don't want to discredit that, but like I said, your performance, your consistent performance is what I care about.
Yeah, and everyone has a bad day every once in a while, but
right, absolutely,
you can't let your bad days become every day, right?
Yep. That's why I start looking for consistency, because consistency is everything, right? When it comes to shooting, consistency is everything.
Yeah, honestly, the more repeatable, on-demand shooting makes everybody better too.
Yep.
From what I've noticed is I met a few instructors, but they really aren't shooters. They might teach, their local CPL classes, but they're not really instructors. And you're like, how can you teach someone when you can't perform it yourself? Which I think needs to change in our industry altogether. It's like, you might be teaching super basics, but you should be able to perform those basics on demand 100% of the time to new level shooters. Like that's like a minimum for me if someone's going to call themselves an instructor.
Right. Yeah. And that's a conversation I'm sure we can have later, but yeah, I feel like the status quo is really low in the major area of like firearm instruction, right? It kind of depends on who you're marketing to, right? If you're marketing to, soccer mom Sally down the street that hasn't ever even touched a gun before, well, you probably don't need to be a GM shooter, right? Like it probably doesn't matter that much. Like just teach her the basics of safety and everything. But for me, it's kind of like, well, why settle? Like why do you settle for being a mediocre shooter? Like that's fine. I'm not saying you have to be a GM shooter before you start teaching like basic, pistol classes, right? But like, don't you want to inspire people? Like, don't you want to inspire them to be better? Right. Don't you want to inspire them to have a higher standard? That's one thing that has been so humbling and so cool to me is I have taught a lot of new shooters, like a lot of new shooters. Honestly, I would say like probably 80 to 90% of my students are like brand new shooters, people that have touched a gun once or never even touched a gun before. And so like I will teach them and in a 2 or 3, 4 hour session. By the end of that, they're already moving and shooting, right? They're doing that. But when they see me perform, like it's inspiring. They're like, oh my gosh, maybe you're half my age and you have achieved this. That is like, I can do that. I think I can do that. It's like, yes, you can, so I think people need to go above and beyond to not just say, oh, well, I'm this, I can do this. So I'm just going to start doing this. And I'm comfortable where I'm at. I'm pretty okay with it. That way I can start teaching other people. It's like, dude, inspire people, strive to inspire people to be better. Because that's what's going to raise the status quo. It's going to raise the standard,
Absolutely. And like I said, I think should some base competencies and always demo if you can. If that's the appropriate class, always demo.
Yep. Yeah. 100%.
I don't know if those instructors are still instructing or getting their classes filled out anymore, but I think you need to be able to always demo what you're talking about other than just talk about it.
Yeah. I mean, if you wanted to get into NASCAR racing, I mean, would you go to the local driver's ed instructor, or would you try, I mean, I hate to say it, but it's just, I mean, kind of the way it is,
Absolutely. But yes. Now, Justin, what are your shooting current goals? Like competition, like, maybe some rifle stuff, your business, what goals you have for your business and maybe your training company?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, That's like a 30-minute conversation, but yeah. So it's funny with personal shooting goals. I have some specifics, but I probably won't share them because it just doesn't like, okay, here's the deal. And I'll give an example of that. So if my goal, right, I've talked to a few people about this. If I have a shooting goal of like, hey, my goal is to get a sub 2-second build drill. It's like, okay, that's awesome. That's great, right? There's a lot of fundamentals you have to master to get that, right? But I will tell you, in just personal experience, if you shoot a drill enough, you will get really good at it and still suck at everything else. And I know because I was there.
Yeah.
I got consistent sub 2-second build drills like a year and a half ago, or like a year ago. I don't even know. It's been a long time. And I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying this as an example. I could shoot sub 2-second build drills like pretty much all the time. But dude, I sucked. Like I sucked at shooting. Like if someone said, hey, I want you to just put one round perfectly placed shot in the head box at 25, I probably wouldn't be able to do it. Like, honestly, I wouldn't, because I couldn't do it, but I could do a sub 2-second build drill. Right. So I think you have to be kind of careful in like having very specific like drills or shooting standards that you want to achieve. Because I personally just don't think that's that important. I mean, it's good. It's still fun to do, right? The tier one I will say the tier one concealed 3.7s drill. I finally completed that after like a year and a half. I only shot it like 3 or 4 times in that year and a half, but like I dry fired it a few times and I just recently passed it. I got a tier one concealed challenge claim, which is pretty dope. Like that was a goal of mine. I wanted to do that. Also the Mozambique or the vice card challenge, from concealment, 2 rounds to the body, 1 to the head, Mozambique in 1.38 seconds. That was a goal too, right? So like you can have like mini goals, right? But I would say the biggest goal for me that I'm chasing is consistency. If what I do is I track like my best day at the range. Like I was recording. I literally tape like a lot of my range sessions, and I just only post like 5% of them. Right. But I record a lot of my sessions, and I'll take like my best day, my best range day. And I'll say, okay, that was my best. These were all the things that I did with these time standards, with this accuracy standard. I want to be able to do that on demand. Like 6 months from now, I want to be able to do everything I just did, like no problem. Right. So I'm constantly raising the bar for myself and my own ability. Right. Because then when I reach that point, because I have reached that point multiple times already, where like I'll do this, I'll do like 6 different exercises, right, in one range day, USPSA, or maybe even a specific drill or whatever. And then I'll like document that and be like, okay, these are the things I worked on to work on my grip, right? I was doing this or that exercises to work specifically on this fundamental. And then 6 months from now, like my best day of doing that, I want to be able to do that consistently. Well, now I can do that consistently. Now, like if I really, really push to my 100%, 110%, well, I want to be able to make that 110% my consistent 90%. Right. So, and really like, it's too much data for me to even share that. Right. But that's what I'm trying to make, my 100 and 110%, my 90%. That's kind of like my goal, my mantra. Make the 100 or make the 110 the 90, right? That's probably my biggest shooting goal. I would like to make GM in USPSA, because especially like as an instructor, as a civilian instructor, right? I think it's cool. I think it's a cool just certification piece of paper, whatever, that you can like immediately gain some people's trust because you have that. Whether that's founded or not, I believe that it is founded somewhat, because like I said, you don't just get GM by picking your nose. Like you have to put in the work to do that, even if you're only a paper GM. But I don't subscribe to the idea that you need to have certifications and pieces of paper to what's the word, have a good reputation, right? But I don't think that some of them hurt when it comes to like skill related tests or piece of paper. So I think having a GM card, I think would be pretty dope. I just am not totally sure if I'll be able to commit enough time to it. So I'm trying to supplement the time with my skill, right? Because I know people that haven't dedicated their entire life to USPSA and they've still gotten GM. So like those are the people that I'm looking to because I'm not shooting one match a week. I'm not shooting, 8 matches a month. I don't have enough time or ammo or money to do that, right? I've only shot one sectional match, right? You get guys that are shooting area matches, sectional matches, like everywhere, right? And I'm sorry, I don't think I'll ever be able to do that. And I'm fine with that. Like I would love to be able to, but I have bigger things that I'm doing, right? Different things that I'm doing. So I'm really trying to, I kind of look at people like Mark Smith. He inspires me because he has not dedicated that much time to USPSA and he just got GM, So that's kind of what that is. So those are kind of my goals when it comes to shooting.
Excellent. Now, what does your training schedule look like? Your live fire, your dry fire, maybe some of your fitness stuff if you do that. Can you give a glimpse to the viewers?
Yeah. So a little bit of perspective, right? A little bit of context. I used to dry fire an hour to 2 hours every day. Like no joke, consistent, like every day. The only day I would ever take off was maybe Sunday, maybe. But like other than that, every day, man, like 2 hours. And then I had a conversation with a buddy about dry fire and some of the, like, is it worth it? What are you getting from it? Is it purposeful? Had some disagreements, which is fine. He was a GM, so it was kind of funny. But anyways, yeah, I started doing that. My life kind of got crazy. I got super busy and I didn't touch a gun for literally probably a month. And I went and shot a match, and out of like 50 shooters, like 52 shooters, I got 4th overall and 2nd in carry optics. And I was like, okay, please explain to me how this happened when I haven't even touched a gun. So that was a huge eye opener to me that it's like, okay, well, my 2 hours a day dry fire was not purposeful. I was not, even though I would work on specific things. My mind was not there. Like mentally, it was not there. And so, it made me realize that sometimes less is more, which sounds weird. But I would say now I dry fire maybe 2 or 3 times a week, and they're very short. They're probably like 30 minutes, 10 to 30 minutes, maybe, depending on the day. And it's mostly movement or like visual, like training my eyes to see faster. I'll sometimes post Instagram stories. And I'm sorry to say, but I'm not going to post stories of me like doing visual exercises. Like I'm literally not going to record me moving my eyes fast, So like I'll do an Instagram story if I find something interesting, mechanics wise, right? With the draw or with reloads or rifles, whatever, rifle stuff, whatever. So I'll post that kind of stuff like on my Instagram story. And it's unfortunate because I've had a few people reach out and be like, it seems like all you do is dry fire, like mechanic stuff. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's just all I post. And it's unfortunate that I kind of realized that that's kind of what was happening. So I kind of laid off on the dry fire videos for a while because it's like, you know what, this really isn't helping that many people. And if people have questions, they'll just reach out to me directly and do it that way. But so dry fire is probably 2 or 3 times a week, 10 to 30 minutes a day. Live fire is weird, man. My live fire schedule is weird because I'm doing personal training, I'm teaching, I'm filming videos either for social media or YouTube. And then I have, wait, did I say personal training already? I can't even remember. Yeah. Okay. So you got those 3 things, right? And then you have matches. So 4 things, right? So that all dictates my shooting schedule. So, I really, really want to try not to let my personal training fall to the wayside and let all those other things come into play, or take priority. It's kind of already happened a few times, and it's like, whatever, it's fine. I'm still shooting, but my matches, because I go into it with such a different mindset than I think most people. I use my matches as some of my training, which a lot of guys will say not to do. I actually say not to do that. But for where I'm at in my shooting, I need practice and experience stage planning and then like executing, right? Putting my mind in the place it needs to be. And like the only way I can really like replicate that is at matches. I can do it at the range, but when I'm by myself, because I hate to say it, I just kind of shoot by myself most of the time. I just can't replicate that. I can't replicate the pressure, the little bit of adrenaline you get from people watching you, from you wanting to perform. So I kind of use matches because I don't shoot that many. I use it for that purpose. So that kind of falls into personal training kind of ish. But then I have media content, YouTube videos and social media, and then also teaching, right? So teaching doesn't use that much ammo, but I'm still shooting a little bit, right? So I would say I shoot probably 4 times a month, maybe 6, sometimes even 8, but they're not 100 round a day round counts. Sometimes it'll be 25, sometimes it'll be 50. Sometimes if I'm filming a YouTube video, it'll be 150, right? I hate to say it, I hate to even admit that. It's almost stupid to think that like you are doing that for a YouTube video, but I've gotten people that have asked me things that it's like, okay, I really believe this could help people. So I'm willing to do that. And I perform at my ability when I film YouTube videos. I don't game it just because you're not showing hits on the target. So I kind of use YouTube videos as like my personal training as well, because I'm pushing myself and I'm still paying attention to everything I'm doing. So yeah, so that's probably what it is. 4 times a month, sometimes 6, sometimes 8, sometimes 2. It just really kind of depends.
Gotcha. Yeah, I am not as lucky as you. I will mostly do dry fire. Now, depending on if ammo comes back or I can get a hold of some ammo, I might start practicing live fire more. But I kind of definitely agree that you need live fire in your regular routine session so you don't forget what recoil feels like. The first match of the season was a little rough for me because what was recoil?
Yeah, right. I know, and it's a bummer because it's so hard because there are so many different instructors that will disagree lightly on this. Like dry fire, you can achieve so much. I'm not even going to put a percentage. I used to say like 80% or whatever, you can achieve what you want in dry fire. And maybe that's true. I don't know. How do you put a percentage on that? Right. But I have realized that like dry fire, it is so important that you are purposeful and that you're really, you're going all in. Like you should be smoked mentally and physically after a dry fire session, even if it's only 30 minutes. And I see like, and I've done it too. Like I will be first one to admit that I've done it maybe even more than anyone. Just go up and it's fun, right? Whip the gun out, do a couple draws. You're super fast, whatever. And you know what? That's fine. Like seriously, you don't have to be so stiff. It's like, no, you can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. It's like, you know what? I like playing with guns. I truly do. Like anyone that knows me personally will tell you how passionate I am about guns, about shooting. And I truly just love playing with guns. So it's like, you know what? If I'm dinking around and I throw in a holster and I just do a couple of draws because they're fun, who cares? Like my intent in going into that dry fire session, quote unquote, is just to have fun because I like playing with my guns, right? But if I'm really like, okay, you know what? I want to really get better at this. Like my last range session, I really sucked at this visualization thing, right? I cannot move my eyes fast enough. I'll work on that and I go into it with that mindset. So your mindset and your mental state is super important going into that. And a lot of people also, Brandon Powers, I'm sure we'll talk about this. If you talk to him at all, that he will say so many times in dry fire, when you're working movement, not even movement, but just visual stuff, don't even use a gun. Like you don't even need a gun. Right. So yeah, don't feel like you need a gun all the time to dry fire. Right. Because dry fire, not just pulling a trigger and hearing a click. A lot of times it's not that, actually. So
Yeah, I agree with that statement. You don't always need a gun. I lately have been, if I need to go work on movement or something, I'll go out in the backyard with some cones and work some cones and look a little weird to my neighbors, but being like a shooting stance and be like, oh, time to back out of this position and run.
yeah.
And I
Yep.
mean, Brandon talks about it greatly. You don't need to, movement shouldn't be affected by having a gun in your hand. I mean, safety purposes, yes, but I'm saying like, don't be a pansy and run like a pansy with a gun, because you still need to move and be efficient. So
It's it's something I harp on all the time, right? Like
hmm
isolation. Isolation is key. If you
hmm
suck at reloads, stop throwing a draw in your one reload one. If you suck at reloads, just work reloads. If you suck at movement, get that gun out of your hands, man. Like, there's seriously, stop combining trigger press and grip and sight picture and everything else with movement. Like, that is not the key to success. It's isolation and then blending, then adding elements of difficulty to it, right?
absolutely. Absolutely. And honestly, you're correct. Purposeful dry fire is what you need. You need a lot of purposeful dry fire, purposeful training. As soon
Yeah.
as it becomes lax and you're just going through the motions, it's pretty much time you need to put the gun up for the day, or go watch TV or something and go do something else, because you're not gaining anything. You're just getting more frustrated and wasting your time at that point. In
Right.
my,
Yeah.
in
If
my
your
opinion.
that is to get better, then yeah, you'll be frustrated. But
hmm
yeah, I handle my guns all the time, like all the time, because I just like guns. I just love guns.
hmm
So, and that's okay. You know, like,
hmm
people need to lighten up a little bit.
Yes, agreed. Now, we've talked about this in the past. It was we typically don't like watching dry fire stories. At least we didn't. I don't. I'm one of those who will click through.
It's horrible. No, I can't stand it.
I can't stand it. The people who do, good for you guys. People don't want to watch me dry fire.
Yeah, yeah, it's tough because, like, you get the messages. Like, I'm not a big Instagram account at all. Like, I'm a
hmm
nobody, right? But I will still get, and it blows my mind. It absolutely blows my mind. But I will get people that will message me quite often, be like, dude, that dry fire story you did the other day, I literally screen recorded it and I watched it over and over, and it has really helped me. And I'm like, dude, I don't even know what to say. Like, that is incredible. Send me a video of a before and after, because I want to see this. Like, I'm so invested in their success at that point. I'm like, that is so cool. Like, that is so cool to me. So that's kind of what's pushed me to keep doing them every so often. And I try to do them every once in a while. But man, I'm sorry to any of my Instagram buddies or dudes that will listen to this. I don't want your dry fire stories. I'm sorry. I don't. I can't. It's bad. It's hard enough for me watching your live fire. Like, I don't even watch a lot of dudes live fire anymore, because it's like, okay, this is so boring. I hate to say it. I'm not getting anything by watching this. It's just entertainment. I go right to, like, the people that I'm, like, learning from.
hmm
So yeah, I'm sorry to say that. It sounds bad, but it's the truth.
I don't mind you telling me a nugget you learned in dry fire, but I don't want to watch it.
Right. Right. Yeah. Like, and that's why I even try to, and I'm so bad at this. I go on, if I do a dry fire story, like, I really try to make it 1 minute. So it's just 4 slides, but I end up doing like 3 minutes, because it's a concept that I'm explaining. And then I'm like, dang it, I'm already at a minute, like, oh, I got to do another one. Next thing you know, you're at like 16 stories. That's like, bro, dude, it's 4 minutes. No one cares. But I fall into that, because it's just, as an instructor, I like just explaining the why behind, not just how. Like, hey, do this. It's like, no, let's get some context and perspective. This is why. This is what I've learned. This is what I've seen. This is what people do. Let me demonstrate what people do, and then I'll demonstrate what I do. Like, I go into like full and like instructor mode. It's like, bro, just no one cares.
Absolutely.
But
Well, we're at the point in the show where I ask the listeners of what questions I have for you. These first 3 questions are from our friend Looking Asian Brennan.
oh
So,
boy.
all right.
Uh-oh.
So my favorite one he asked is, do cheese curds help you go fast?
No, they actually do the opposite. They slow you down. There's actually Yeah, there's a chemical reaction in male hormones that reacts negatively to cheese curds. So it actually slows you down. So I've had to lay off, man. It's unfortunate.
It is
Um,
unfortunate.
it
Yellow
is
or white
unfortunate. By the
cheese?
way, I'm not legally authorized to give medical advice. I just want to throw that out there.
All right. So are you on your cheese curds? Is it yellow or white cheese?
It's both, dude.
Is it
It's
is
both.
it you don't
It's a
have a
mix. Yeah.
preference?
No,
Okay.
it's both.
Okay.
Got to be both.
All right. The next question Brennan had is, what is the biggest problem in the training community right now?
One word: ego.
Mm-hmm.
100%. I honestly could I could stop there. I might expand upon that a little bit, but ego is the biggest thing. Pride is the fall of man, right? I still have issues with pride, right? Who doesn't? But man, if people could just talk a little less and listen a little more, have a little more grace, right? I think we'd be in a lot better place. I'm saying that to myself as well. I've had to really have a mindset shift, because as soon as you start getting recognized as someone with skill, right? Someone that because I'm okay admitting that, yeah, I have skill. I have literally invested an insane amount of money. Like if you were to really break down the numbers, and it would surprise you, like an insane amount of money and time I've invested into this craft. Like, yeah, I'm darn good at it, and I should be. Like, that's how this works, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you talk to a professional musician, they're not going to be like, yeah, well, I still kind of suck, blah, blah. Like, no, they're going to be like, yeah, well, I mean, I'm good. That's why I do it for a living, right? And I don't shoot for a living, obviously, but like I've invested enough time and money into this to where I'm good at it, right? So when you get to that point and you get people that start admiring you for that or asking you questions, your head goes from the size of a little pea to the size of a watermelon really quick, right? And it's human nature to want to do that. And so it's really important to really dial back down, understand what your skills are, what are you good at, what are you not good at, being honest with yourself, and then being honest with other people, and not just tearing other people down to make yourself feel good, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's literally the biggest reasons. I mean, I think that people will tear each other down is because they truly want to feel better than you. That's why, right? I think there's so much value in constructive criticism, right? I will do that with dudes that I know who will care, and I expect people to do it to me, right? Like I want that, but when you just go on and you start trash talking a dude because of what he's doing, even if it is wrong, where's the value in that? And then publicly, they'll do it in a comment section. It's like honestly, if I see something wrong, I will look at that person. I will analyze who they are, what their character traits are. I will go through their Instagram page. Like, I really try to dig deep into this person, what their perspective is, before I even make a comment that's has any twinge of negativity to it. Like, hey, this is what I'm seeing, man. And if it's something any more than like, bro, like that's unsafe, like I'm just gonna private message him. I'm gonna send him a voice message 3 minutes long explaining, hey, I'm just curious why you do this, because like my perspective is this. I don't really agree with what you're doing. Would you mind explaining why you do it that way? Because I'm genuinely curious, and have a conversation. Funny concept, huh? Have an adult conversation with someone else on something you disagree on. I don't know. I don't understand why that's such a foreign concept to people nowadays. But honestly, it's just ego. So when you look at all that within the training industry and you have these instructors, it's just, man, that's the biggest problem. It's just ego.
Absolutely. And I definitely think there's a fine line between your confidence and your ego.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, we all can say we're pretty good shooters, right? But we all know our limitations on, we're not Max Michelle level, we're not JJ. We know where we sit in the pool, right? So
Yep.
there's definitely difference between our confidence in ourselves and our actual skills and our ego. But
Yeah.
the next, I think this is Brennan's last question, and I think it kind of ties into the last answer we gave. What's the number one thing keeping people from competing? I actually messaged him about this, and I'll say it is ego. I mean, No one wants to get their ego or their feelings hurt about thinking that they're phenomenal and getting their ass kicked by the gynecologist, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, ego is definitely the biggest thing. I would say. I think the next biggest thing is probably fear. A lot of people.
Fear of the unknown, you'd think?
Yeah, fear of the unknown, intimidation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even just talking to a couple local people about it, that's kind of something they felt with me, right? They've I kind of have a cool thing around here where I tell anyone, hey, if you have seen me and anything I do, and I'm the one that has like inspired you to go shoot a match, I will pay your first match fee. Like, and I will go with you to your first match. I truly want to do that. Like, I am invested in your success in this. And I feel the responsibility to do that. And I want to do that. And I've had a few people do that, and it's really cool. But like talking to a few people like in my community, I'm like, hey, would you ever be open to doing competition? Like, I would be more than willing to pay a range fee and come with you and help you. And they're just like, I'm not that level, but thanks though. Like, I'm like, whoa, what level? Like, what are you talking about? And it's unfortunate. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know if there even is a way to fix it. But they see on my social media, right? I'm shooting matches. So they see competition, they know what it is, but they see me shooting fast and running fast, moving fast, doing reloads fast. They're immediately intimidated. They're like, I cannot do that. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. No. That's not how that works. That's just me. Like, there are so many people better than me. There are so many people at a lower level than me that are still doing this and having an amazing time doing it, right? And they're really leveling up their skills, really building their proficiency with a firearm by doing that. And so they're like, oh, really? I'm like, yeah, there are people that just bought a gun last week that are showing up to matches, and they're like, wow, I did not know that. And I'm like, okay, you know what? That's in my mind. I'm like, that's a problem. You should know that. There's got to be a way for people to not be intimidated by it just because they're seeing someone like me compete and try to, win, right? I'm trying to be better than what I am last time. I'm trying to go fast. Yeah, so I think that's one thing, but I think that's a little more rare
Mm-hmm.
than the ego thing, because you think about people that actually shoot firearms is a lot. There's a lot of people that shoot that will never go to a match because they're like, oh, well, yeah, who needs competition? Like, that's and it's an ignorance thing too. They think it's unrealistic. They think there's no value to it, blah, blah, blah. But ultimately, like, even if there was no value to it, I would say, why don't you just do it for fun? Like, just do it for fun. And at that point, that's when you start realizing that it's ego. It's just pride. They don't want to get their butt whooped because they know they will, by some 12-year-old girl with $500 Glock that will beat them. So that's just kind of the way it's, once again, it's an ego thing.
Right. And yeah, I kind of agree. There's a couple people around me who I've kind of pushed into trying to, start competing. I'm like, I'll go with you. Like, I might not shoot but I'll be there with you. I'll coach you. That's the cool thing. If you don't shoot the match, you can coach them and be like, no, you need to go get this target without worrying about obscuring a penalty on yourself for coaching.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And there was actually a person I took the Tim Herron class with. She was she'd never done competition before, but she took that competition class. And I'm like, you're kind of local to me. I'll drive. We'll meet halfway. She's very nice. She's kind of offered me to have access to her range, which is freaking awesome. I need a better place than where I'm shooting.
That's awesome, dude.
Mm-hmm. So hopefully I'll hit her up here soon and we'll go to a match soon. Unfortunately, the match that's closest to both of us probably won't happen this month because of the section match that's the same weekend. So it's like, there's no point of hosting the local match that same weekend and have nobody show up because everyone went and shot the level 2 match. But
yeah, right.
We have a question from your buddy Jake Morrow. I had to look him up on Instagram to figure it out that you were buddies because you follow each other. Mm-hmm. And where'd it go? Of course, I lost my place. Right? Is that how these things work?
Yeah, that's how it usually works. Yep.
And he asks, why has he never beaten me?
Well, because he made GM in 5 months, and I've been shooting for like 3 years, and I'm still A class. So, yeah, cool story, Jake. Jake's a good dude. I met him down in North Carolina taking a class, and he picked up a pistol for the first time. I think it was like November or something of like 2018 or 2019. I'm sorry, I can't remember. Kind of butchering this, but picked up a pistol for the first time in November, started shooting competition in like January, and he made GM by like May.
What division does he shoot in?
Carry optics.
Oh, does he?
So he literally made GM in like 5 months of shooting competition, and in like 7 or 8 months of picking up a pistol for the first time. So that's pretty incredible. And so I don't care who you are or what you do, what you've done, where you've been. Like, I would listen to what he has to say. I don't agree with everything on him, right? Or with him, which is so funny. But I always listen, because it's like, okay, he has a lot of natural talent. He's very athletic, but he has worked his butt off to get to where he's at. And there's a lot of value in that. He's learned a lot of things along the way. So he was actually the one that I had the conversation about dry fire with. We were kind of arguing about it because he was saying, like, he won't dry fire. He won't even pick up a gun in 3 months, and then he'll go like smoke everyone at a local match. And it's like, what what is going on right now? His reloads suck. I'll say that his reloads kind of suck, but he made GM with his reloads sucking. So this is what it is. But yeah, if you really break down. And I was arguing. I'm like, no, dry fire. Like, there is a reason why people don't get that good out of dry fires, because they're not dry firing correctly, blah, blah, blah. And I'm kind of eating humble pie now, because I really am starting to understand where he's coming from, because it's not about how much you dry fire. It's what you dry fire, how you dry fire, right? So, yeah. So I have made it a personal goal to beat him at a match, but I don't know when that'll be. Don't know when that'll be, because man, he is fast. He's a speedy little guy. So.
And you said you met him in what, North Carolina?
North Carolina. Yep.
Does he live in Wisconsin, or does he live in North Carolina?
So he used to live in North Carolina. He grew up in Wisconsin, moved to North Carolina for a job, and then he came back, and he's I think he's in Illinois now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I feel sorry for him. He lives in Illinois.
Yeah. I think it was a job kind of brought him down there and doing some cool stuff. So,
well, at least he's still kind of close. He's in the same area, not super far away in North Carolina then.
Yeah. We're both pretty busy, so we don't see each other as much as we'd like, but we actually are. Well, I guess I'll let the cat out of the bag. We're planning on doing YouTube, a few YouTube videos on USPSA, how to get into it, why there's value in it, and some of the key points that you can start working on, foundational points to USPSA shooting. So that'll be really cool. I'm really looking forward to that. We're gonna get that going. Oh boy, I'm not even gonna get a time frame on it, but that's gonna be really good. I'm looking forward to that.
That'll be pretty cool. I'm excited to look for that. I probably should go subscribe to you on YouTube. I keep forgetting that you have a YouTube channel. Yes, shameless plug. Style training on YouTube. I have like 270 or something. Sure, you have more than I do. Yeah, I'm getting there though. It's slow. It's that's a whole nother conversation. Why I'm kind of directing a lot of my energy and attention to YouTube. But yeah, it's working on it. Mm-hmm. And then we have our dearly beloved friend, Mr. Fritch. Yes. Asks, when are you going to start shooting correct-handed? So if most people don't know, Justin is left-handed. Yes, I'm left-handed. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's the world was not made for lefties, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. I will say though, I was at the Vortex Edge facility, shooting with a couple buddies, and I shot at, I think it was at like 10 yards. I think I shot a moving target. There's 3 speeds to the moving target. There is walking, fast walking, and then like running. And I shot it with the middle mode, the fast walking, and I got like
what was it? I think it was like 12 or 13 out of 15 in like the circle. It was like, it's like an A zone, but it was like a circle bullseye target shooting right-handed. And I did that because the gun that I was shooting was a right-handed Glock. And the it had an extended magazine release, and I couldn't shoot it left-handed. Otherwise, the first round, the recoil would depress the magazine release, and the mag would just fall out. So I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm shooting right-handed. And so shooting a moving target at 10 yards, I had like, 80 or 90% accuracy. So I actually can shoot correct-handed.
Now, was this moving target going left to right or up and down the range?
Left to right.
Left to right. Okay, so it's going this way. Okay.
Yep. So, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I'm somewhat ambidextrous. I've practiced. It's funny. I actually have a few right-handed like mag carries, and every once in a while I'll just practice right-handed reloads, right-handed draws. I have a few, I have holsters everywhere, and it's just fun to me. It's a new challenge because I look so weird doing it. Like I literally feel like I look like a total like beginner and noob because it looks so weird, but it's fun for me because it's very challenging. And I kind of stopped doing it like 2 months ago. But I started to get like pretty darn good. I was getting sub-second draws, A-zone hits. It was actually a lot of fun. Yeah. So, but anyways, yeah.
Yeah. And, I used to try left-handed group shooting. It's so freaking awkward. It's like, what is this is weird. No.
Yep. Yeah. It's funny though, because my trigger management is not great with my right hand. Because if I shoot just right hand only or support hand only, I'm like next stage, I don't always do great. So like I got to work on my trigger press because my right pointer finger is not refined yet. So I can just compensate everything with a super strong left hand support hand grip, and I can just like smash the trigger, and I'm getting A-zone hits. Got to refine the trigger a little bit.
Gotcha. Now let's see. Speaking of grip and trigger, I see sometimes that one is more important than the other from people. I want to see what your take is on that. What you think on the whole grip versus trigger debate is.
Well, what's funny is that I find it funny that people are arguing about that, but yet no one's talking about vision, right? Because I'm going to be the first one to tell you that your vision is actually most important. What you're seeing, you have to see before you can do, right? So that would be my first answer to that is, what's more important, grip or trigger? And I would say vision. So there's that. But I would say that they both do different things, right? I know some people will probably disagree with me on this, and that's fine. I love to have conversations about it, but the way I see it is you should be able to do both, right? Both are, I would say, equally important because they complement each other. You could have a really, really strong grip at 25 yards, and if like you can probably smash the trigger and still get really good hits, right? I know that I've talked to a few really high level shooters that pretty much say that like your trigger press is important, but if you have a correct grip, technically you can smash the trigger and pretty much still get your hits all the time. Because as long as that gun's not moving and your support hand is doing what it needs to do, you can smash the trigger and you should be able to get hits. But you have to allow room for human error, right? For that strong hand to want to take over, and it happens. Like it's going to happen. So that's why we want to take out any room for error that we can possible. That's why we, prep the trigger. And so honestly, I would say they're both equally important because, you also don't need a two-handed grip. I can shoot my Glock with 2 fingers and get a hit at 50 yards on a C-zone steel, right? I don't need a good grip to get a hit, right? Heck, I could probably do that 10 times in a row, but how fast can I do that? Not very fast, right? I can't do that very fast at all. So my grip complements that. My grip complements shooting fast, right? I cannot do a 1.5 or 1.6 second bill drill with one hand and get decent hits, right? I can't do that. So I don't know, man. It's kind of there are so many different people that debate it that have actually good points. But I think people should focus more on the vision, honestly, because people that can pull a trigger fast, but they can't see for crap, well, you're going to reach your limitation pretty quick. So I would say they're both equally important. Train both of them equally and accordingly. But why people miss, I mean, I don't know what to say, man. I mean, it's hard for me to say, oh, well, a majority of why people miss is because of bad trigger press. How do I know that? What is most people? Is that just the people I see on Instagram, or is that the people I'm seeing in classes, or the people I'm seeing at matches? Like when I see people on Instagram, their world is so small, right? Or it seems so small. Maybe I don't see the whole picture, but they'll be like, oh, well, everyone misses, or most people miss because of grip or trigger. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Talking about like Instagram, because I'll tell you right now, the world is a lot bigger and a lot fuller, or full of more shooters than just people who are on Instagram, right? So from what I have seen, it's a lot of both. Honestly, I'll see people that will miss at 7 yards because their finger is like almost out of the trigger guard and they're smashing that thing so much that they're dropping that gun. And maybe they have decent grip, right? Maybe their grip is in the right place. They're squeezing nice and hard, but they're just moving the gun too much, right? Other people I see, they know how to prep sights, press or whatever. They know how to prep, roll through, whatever, but their grip is just everywhere, but they're dead accurate, right? They're literally like stacking rounds on top of each other because they know how to pull a trigger without moving the gun, but they can't shoot super fast, right? So it's just I see a mixture of both, honestly. So I'm not going to take a stance and be like, oh, it's more grip, it's more trigger. Train both of them equally, but above all, train your vision to be faster. So that's what I would say.
Good answer. I like that one.
Yeah.
We're getting near the end of the show, but I've got a couple more questions for you still.
All right.
What is something that current you would like to tell past you about shooting?
I would say the biggest thing is to not beat yourself up and don't compare yourself. Comparison will kill your joy and your self-esteem so fast. That's something that I've actually never even really talked to anyone about this, but that's something that I've struggled with quite a bit in the last 2-3 years, is comparing my ability to other people. And not just on Instagram, but even just at matches, right? Seeing a buddy, just absolutely shred on a stage, or seeing, whatever. And then you obviously add Instagram to that, and it just amplifies everything times 10. But what you don't realize is that a majority of people's runs on Instagram are their 10th take, right? It took 10 takes to finally get that. And you also have to understand that maybe they've been doing it longer than you. Maybe they've put in way more time and work than you. But ultimately, they're not you, right? So stop comparing yourself to them. Stop putting yourself above them, and rather encourage them and compliment them on their skill, and maybe ask them what they think you should be better at, what you should work on, and then put your time and energy towards that, towards bettering yourself, rather than trying to be better than this guy or this guy, right? So that would definitely be, that's something that I've changed mentally quite recently, probably in the last, I don't know, 6 to 8 months, maybe. My even with instructing too, like I see, like, I'm just being totally honest here, man. Like I've seen when I first started in like teaching, I would see some of these guys on Instagram, some of these like, these dudes, just regular, normal dudes that could totally outshoot me. I'm like, oh my gosh, like these guys are insane. And yet they're not instructors. Like they're literally just dudes on Instagram. Like what business do I have teaching people, maybe even teaching high level shooting, when you have dudes like this that they should be going to, right? And I had to realize that I was just comparing myself, and I wasn't really prioritizing bettering myself better than my old self, rather than bettering myself over them, right? So that would definitely be the biggest thing I would tell my old self, is to stop worrying about other people, stop comparing yourself to other people, compliment them on their level of skill, and put in work in yourself, focus on yourself, get better. That's what I would say.
I like that. That was a very good way put away. And I think honestly, more people need to stop worrying and comparing themselves to others.
Yeah. And I think, I haven't really talked to anyone, like I said, I haven't talked to anyone about that, but I think that's something that I think probably a lot of people may have struggles with. Cause I mean, I know I did, and maybe I'm the only one, I don't know, but
You're
I'm
not
sure,
alone, sir. You're not alone.
yeah, I'm sure that's something that's probably more common than people would like to admit. So for anyone listening, don't stop comparing yourself, just work on yourself, because there are people that look up to you. There are people that look at you the way you're looking at that guy. Right. So, and that.
And I would say there's nothing wrong with comparing similar plans or stages like execution wise, but don't get discouraged, guys, about not being able to do a sub sub 2 second builder. God, that's a tongue twister, I guess, today. I need more coffee. But like when your other guy can, I mean, we're all at different levels, so don't get discouraged too bad.
Yep. Yeah. And even looking at my buddy Jake, right? He made GM in 5 months. Like, awesome. But rather than comparing yourself to someone who's been shooting 3 years and is only an A-class shooter, like, don't compare yourself to that, right? Look at the people that I've helped, right? I've helped a lot of people. I've helped a lot of people grow in their shooting. Maybe Jake hasn't done that as much. I don't know, right? But you have to look at the impact, the positive impact you're making, right? Investing in yourself, your friends, your family, your community, and focus on bettering other people rather than trying to be better than the next guy.
Absolutely. 100% agree. Now, Justin, do you have any sponsors for your shooting or your business, or any
No,
partners you want to share about?
yeah, so I'm a ScalarWorks dealer. I'm an authorized ScalarWorks dealer as well as a US rigger dealer. Those are on my website. Got some more coming. Can't really say who, but I'm kind of working on. There's a lot of stuff going on that I can't really share or talk about, but yeah, there's a lot going on that I'm really excited to talk about. So yeah, stay tuned for that. There's more coming, more stuff coming from Excel. That's going to be really cool. But yeah, as of right now, you can find ScalarWorks mounts and things like that, some iron sights, as well as US rigger bands on my website.
There you go. That'd be cool. Look,
Yeah.
if you guys want that stuff, check them out. I guess this will be the point where we plug where can they find you on social media, your website, all that jazz, if they want to get in contact you for training or whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah. So my website is exceltrainingsolutions.com. And my Instagram is at Excel Training Solutions, as well as my Facebook page and my YouTube channel is Excel Training Solutions as well. So it's all kind of it's kind of all the same. So if you want to find me on anywhere, it's not that hard. But yeah, if you want to take a class or sign up for open enrollment, or I do a lot of private training. That's actually probably the biggest thing that I do. You can go on my website and there's a training kind of schedule that you can go under, and there's private training or virtual training. If you want to do a FaceTime call or something like that with dry fire, or sketch out a range plan or something like that, I'd be more than willing to help with that. But yeah, if you have any questions, if anyone has any questions for me, you can reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook or anything else. Even on my website, there's a contact form as well. So a lot of ways.
Absolutely, guys. And don't forget, go check him out. Tell him you heard about him on Manny Things or Manny Talks Shooting. If you did, greatly appreciate it. I know getting the word out is awesome. Go tell Justin, even tell him hi. Go hit him up on an IG or something, say hi. So that'd be awesome, guys. Justin, like I said, thank you again for coming onto the show. I greatly appreciate you taking the time today to sit down with me and chit chat about shooting and all things guns and awesomeness. But to my listeners, I want to thank you once again for tuning in to another episode of Manny Talks Shooting. I greatly appreciate you. If you enjoyed this content, check out our YouTube channel, Manny Things. And until next time, get out and do the things.